was wondering if you remember actually where we first met.
I thought it was doing voiceover at CityVox, and we were doing ESL stuff. So you were
Yes.
speaking very slowly, talking like this in your perfect
Yes.
English, and I
Yes.
had to talk like this with a Hispanic accent.
Yes, that is true. But we actually met before that. We met at an audition. I don't remember which one it was. It was one of the place audition places in Chelsea, one of the recording studios. And you walk in and you go look to the right, and there's a big screen TV and a bunch of couches and like a pool table. I'm trying to remember the name of that studio, and it was for a bubblegum voiceover, and there was literally like one word. It was one word. And I walk in and I sign in and I sit down, and you're the only other voice actor who's waiting for the audition. And I sit down, and you're like, "Hi." I'm like, "Hi." And you're like, and you come over to me, you're like, "All right, look." Yeah, because I hadn't seen the script. That you're like, "Okay, look, we're gonna help each other run lines for this, because like this is a lot to take in. So let's get ready. Are you ready?" And then I looked at the script, and it's like one stupid word. And and as soon as I saw script, I'm like, okay, I like her. I like this person.
I did that? What
You
are
did
you
that.
talking about?
You did that.
Oh
You
my
totally
God. I
did
mean,
that.
it totally sounds like something I would do, but I don't
Yep.
remember this.
Yeah. Well, it was a long time ago. This is maybe 2015, 2016. It was a while ago, but like I'll never forget that, because it
How
was
did
just
you
like,
remember that though? Because
because
I felt like the first time I was meeting you was at CityVox. So then you
I just remembered it. I don't know, but yeah,
I
no,
love it. I love
that is
it.
totally. And then we saw each other at City Vox a few times. And then you moved to LA, but we will get into that. But for everybody that is watching, if whether you're watching on YouTube or LinkedIn or Facebook, and of course Facebook crashed again, so I'm 0 for 2 on Facebook,
Oh,
so that's why I put
sorry.
the links.
Yeah.
It's a StreamYard thing, but that's okay. We've got LinkedIn and YouTube going. So if you have any questions or anything you'd like to share with Carolina or myself, you're welcome to ask any voiceover or film or TV related questions. Just put them in the chat and we will get to them in order. While we're waiting for those to pile up, I wanted to ask you, Carolina, what is your superhero origin story? Like, what started you in acting in general and voice acting in particular?
Oh my God. Hyperactivity, man. ADD. I'm the ADD superhero. Uh, I was just a really energetic kid, and my mom owned a nursery school, so she was really good at like clocking what kids were drawn to at an early age. And so she was like, okay, she knew my older sister was meticulous and very good at like focusing on things, and I was just like, wow. So I think that since I was a kid, I even went to another little nursery school that was like very active, and we'd play outside and we'd do plays and stuff. So I just kind of had that in me. And I auditioned for a play when I was 4.5 as part of my, in Colombia, you do school kindergarten through senior year.
Hmm.
So it's not like you just do plays like the, you know, 5 to 7 year olds do a play. No, it's like you're doing a play with seniors in high school. And I was 4.5, and I got to play Gretel in I was going to say Hamster and Gretel. That's a Disney show I work on, which we will talk about.
Okay.
That's not what I did when I was 4. I worked on The Sound of Music, and I played Gretel, the littlest of the Von Trapp family, and I freaking loved it, man. I was just learning my lines and doing the little, marching they do and the singing, and I could carry it too. And I wasn't like a great singer, but it was good enough for 4.5, and
Right.
I just loved it. So then, after that, I kept auditioning for school plays because it was like I loved talking to the big kids.
Hmm.
I don't know. It was just really exciting. So
Cool. So your entry was in theater. Yes.
it was. And, I think now that I think back on it, I would watch commercials, and I'd watch the
Hmm.
Pantene Pro V, like the bun up, and then they'd slow mo, the bun would fall from the knot, and it'd be like Pantene Pro V for a sleek, blah, blah, blah. And I would practice in front of the mirror, and I'd swoosh my hair around, but I didn't know if I wanted to be the model or the VO. So I would practice both. And I'm like, maybe they would let me do both one day. So I definitely would like practice like commercial VO as kids do.
Sure.
And animation. I loved Robin Williams in Fern Gully is my absolute favorite. And
Mm.
then in Aladdin, when I realized he was the genie too, I was like, wait, that guy does movies and animation. Like I just loved that. And I didn't ever think I could do animation because I didn't think of it as a job, you know? And
Hmm.
then I kind of discovered it later, but acting was just always kind of at the core of it all. So
Very, very cool. So you were born and raised in Colombia, yeah?
yeah,
And when
until
did
I
when
was
until
I
you were
did that. But I sorry. Uh, I, randomly, we moved to Rhode Island for 2 years when I was in middle school and high school. So I did 2 years of my like I don't know. I was 14 or 15, and so I lived in Rhode Island and I learned how to say wicked good and Boston talk and all that stuff. But then we moved back to Colombia, and so I finished junior and senior year there. So I basically moved up when I was 18 for college, and then I went to Boston to study theater at Boston College.
Oh, okay. You got
Yeah.
your BFA?
Yep.
Me
Yeah.
too. Me too. I got
Oh,
my BFA
cool.
in theater too, Montclair State, in New
Oh,
Jersey, and
sweet.
then I went to the National Shakespeare Conservatory for a year, getting my
That's
Chekhov.
fancy.
Yeah, very fancy, getting my Chekhov and my ballet on and all of that
Your
stuff. But
ballet. Holy
I
cow.
wasn't good at it, but you know,
Yeah.
it was required for the curriculum. But then I dropped
Holy
out,
cow.
and then I discovered voiceover like right out of grad school. So so you got your BFA, and then were you auditioning in the Boston scene? Because I know there's a lot of theater up there.
I didn't because during college we worked on school plays and then freaking school, man, it was hard. I'd never studied so hard in my life. It's just so many classes and uh and if we did a play in college, like you have no time for anything else. So, but
Hmm.
right after BC, I went to New York and I did a conservatory program at a film school for 1 year. So I kind of extended my studies, and it was just film and TV and commercial and VO acting. It's right on 19th Street, next to three of us,
Oh,
or
okay.
in the same building. Yeah, and so I learned all the basics of what it is to work on camera, and then I kind of got the lay of the land in New York, and I started. I was going to say freelancing with casting directors. I started interning for them, so I got
Hmm.
to see like from the other side how things were, and then that next year I started auditioning for everything I could get my hands on. But
Right. So it was mostly on camera and theater, but then were they just throwing voiceover auditions at you just on the side, just as they were coming in?
because I don't know how it happened, but wow, Elsie Stark in New York.
Oh
She
yeah,
is
Star
Stark
casting.
Naked, yeah, Stark
Star Kid
Naked
Naked,
casting.
right.
Yeah. She because I spoke Spanish and she's Puerto Rican, we kind of bonded and I always took class on that 12th floor where her studio was. So
Hmm.
then I think it was through her that she said, "Oh, they're looking for Spanish speakers at CESD." So I think she put me in touch and then I freelanced with them for VO, and then someone put me in touch with Abram. So I was freelance. So what they do with foreign language is that they don't sign you. You just kind of freelance, and whoever hits you up first for an audition, you kind of go with them. So I
Hmm.
did that for a few years, and I was just lucky that I kind of came in at a time where they wanted authentic Spanish speakers. Um,
Mm.
and my Colombian Spanish could be very neutral, and I was kind of picking up how to do a Mexican accent. So uh, that's how I started getting VO auditions. After I kind of learned, I took a VO class, and then a little audition here or there, but it wasn't a lot. It was I wish it had been more at the time, but I did like a McDonald's radio spot in Spanish, and then random stuff like Steinmart. Who's ever heard of that? But I did
I've heard
Steinmart.
of
Yeah, man. I don't know stuff. Gillette. So and it grew over the years, but it was. I can't say that I lived off of VO. It was just like I was lucky if I booked one every year. Or it took a while to get going.
What was your survival job?
Oh God, I was a good old waitress.
There you go.
Yep. In college I worked at a flower shop. I arranged flowers. So you talked about flower arranging in your family, and
Yes.
I loved that. And so I learned how to do some stuff. So I really admire beautiful arrangements. And then in New York I lied my way through, my first job saying I had experience. Of course I didn't. But then you just learn how to wait tables. And then I worked for the next 6.5 years waiting tables all over the city. So that paid my bills. So I never was worried about bills that I knew that like my 5 p.m. to midnight shift was that. And then during the day, I was just auditioning and prepping and, learning lines.
So you had a lot of dreams back then.
Oh, dude. I remember like there were moments where I'd be like, hey, waiting tables. And then I'd be like, no, remember this. These are the years that I'll look back on and I'll say, that's what you do in New York. And I think I learned a lot from waiting tables. I think everybody should do it. It's so humbling and it teaches you so much about humans. Yeah.
I did it.
I actually, yeah. Like, isn't it nice to give good service?
It is nice to give good service. It's very satisfying. Like, when it's good, it's really good. When it's bad, it's really bad. But it's a learning experience. I want to get to our very first question here. Jonathan asks, and this is clearly I prepped you for this one. What is your dream role, Carolina?
Oh, Jonathan Millet, Jonathan. I used to have like that, like, now everyone's like, oh, Marvel superhero. And I think right now I just want to work on 3-dimensional, exciting, interesting roles. Like it can be in an indie film, it can be on a video game, it can be in an animation, but I want the character to excite me and have it be fun. And I used to audition for drama, and I wanted to be the lead in a dramatic movie where I'd be running through some African country with a gun in my hand, saving children or something. And like, that sounds great, but man, I also really love comedy, and I want to work with good people. I love when I'm, in an animation episode where we all get to work as a group in the studio together. Like, I just love fun experiences. So honestly, right now, I just want to work with cool people. I'm not answering your question, Jonathan, but it's like, you just learn over the years, like sometimes you think you got the great role and then the team is shit. And you're like, oh, I don't like this,
Yeah. Oh, no, I've been asked the same question, and I give the same answer. I just want to be consistently working with good humans, because I tell my students, the last gig you got isn't the lowest paying, lowest exposure gig you'll ever get, and the next one you get isn't necessarily the highest paying, most exposure, because it's not like this constantly upward ladder thing. It's like it's a journey that goes over here and over there and back all around. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm definitely in the same boat with you as that. Before I get to my next question, or we get to one of our viewers' next questions, is how did I know you got GTA Grand Theft Auto? That was 2013. That was you were in that one. So how did that one happen?
Well, so I got into GTA thanks to getting into Max Payne 3. I auditioned via nycastings.com. If there's actors out there that need to, have hope for something, like I didn't have an agent when I was getting certain gigs. So this one I got off a website and I auditioned. And then because I spoke Brazilian Portuguese, it helped, because that game takes place in Brazil. So I did some random mocap for them. But then, I was smart enough to observe, okay, everyone here is Brazilian and they all have accents when they speak English. So I went up to the casting guy and I was like, yo, dude, if you ever need someone to speak English like this or to speak Spanish, like, please call me for future gigs. I don't just speak Portuguese or English with an accent from Brazil, So he's like, yeah, cool. We'll keep you in mind. And they have a roster. So, dude, I was lucky enough for GTA 5. I did not audition for Taliana Martinez. Tony Greenwich just remembered me and cast me in that. And she's kind of a badass role. I only did VO for her. I didn't do mocap, but I got to do mocap for like extras and stuff. So it was a good little gig that would help pay the bills. And so then it carried on to, years later, they called me for Red Dead 2 because they just kind of had me in the roster. I know how to do mocap with them. I was really, really grateful to that gig because it just kept coming,
Yeah. Before we went live, Caroline and I were catching up on stuff, and both of us were in Red Dead Redemption and Red Redemption 2. We did not know that about each other until like 10 minutes ago. And we both got our Red Dead gig off a casting site. And then you got it again because you did the last one, and then I got my second on Red Dead 2. I got that through one of my managers. So it's so weird sometimes, and that's the other thing about the voiceover industry, everybody. It comes at you in different ways from different angles. That's why you want to be out there, have your demos ready, be on the casting sites, and be open to whatever opportunities come at you. Yeah.
And because they're not always, you know, like back in the day, I don't know if they were repping that many people who like in the VO world, they wouldn't rep you if you had an accent because voiceover didn't want accents then. It was like either you're going to do commercial copy in perfect English or in another language. But if I talk English like this, I'm not going to get a job doing voiceover. And so then they were reaching out into other websites for people from Brazil, people from other countries. So you just never know when they're looking outside the box for stuff. And that's why your stuff should just live online, you know?
Very cool. Let's get to another question here. Okay. Hi, I've got a great video game demo. Awesome. I'm aiming at the many small voice roles that fill out a world like the random citizens of Los Santos. Looking for advice on how to best seek representation for these kinds of roles.
Yeah. You want to take that one, Mr. Deer? Because I'll take
I'll take.
I'll
take
give me
that
2
one.
cents later. Yeah.
Okay. In the voiceover industry, there are 3 what I call portals. Portals are that which give you access to casting opportunities. The 3 portals in voiceover are representation, agents and managers, and casting directors to a certain extent because they don't represent you, but they often advocate for you or refer you. The second one is online casting sites, free casting sites, and then paid what the one you NY castings, like that one, and then pay to play sites like voices.com, voice123. And then there's self-marketing strategies, which is inbound and outbound marketing. Like outbound marketing is like a cold call or a cold email. Inbound marketing is like social media or blogging where you're doing things passively to attract voice seekers' attention. And then based on the genres of voiceover that you want to do, you got to figure out which portals that you need to utilize to get the casting opportunities that you want. Now, what I've learned in my 25 plus years of doing this, and Carolina may be able to speak to this, is that the industry will tell you when you're ready for representation, especially now, because most of the time, if you're going to get represented, it's because Carolina will call me and say, hey, Tom, I just heard that Atlas got a roster spot open. You'd be perfect for you. I'm going to drop them an email and introduce you. So that's not you got to get connections like kind of thing. It's like, all relationships are built on trust and respect by establishing credibility and skills and all the things, the hard and soft skills over a long period of time. So if you just got a great video game demo, my recommendation would be not to worry about representation anytime soon. Don't worry about the representation portal. Focus on online casting sites, free and pay to play, and self-marketing. There are so many video game companies in Europe, for example, small independent video game companies that are low end to decent paying, but you can develop your auditioning skills, you can develop your performance skills, you can develop your rate negotiation skills, you can develop your communication skills, you can develop your directing skills and self-direction skills, because a lot of times you don't get directed. So and then eventually when you start to build up those IMDb credits, and then instead of auditioning for gigs, a company will say, hey, we got a role for you, just based on the good work that you did on previous work, not just because of your talent and your performance, but because of your skills as just a human, because humans want to work with good humans that they like, respect, and trust. So that's my VO strategist spiel on that.
And Actors Access was a great one for me as well. And sometimes you book a little gig that pays nothing or pays very little, but then you meet an actor on that gig, and then they're like, oh, I just got a manager who's looking for new people. You have to keep meeting people, because sometimes the one that's going to connect you to your representation will be another actor, or will be a casting director who sees you and goes, holy cow, you're really good. You just never know.
Yep.
I got my Abrams agents by going to a dance class. I kid you not. I was doing an Afro-Brazilian dance class in New York City. And as I'm bouncing around with my little, whatever, I had a bracelet on with the Colombian flag. And the Colombian flag is very similar to the Ecuadorian and Venezuelan one. And this guy is dancing next to me going, ah, are you from Venezuela? And I'm like, no, I'm from Colombia. And we're doing this thing. And then at the end of class, I thought he was, trying to hit on me. Turns out he was just being like, yo, cool, you're Colombian and Venezuelan. I saw your flag. I'm like, yeah, what do you do? Oh, voice acting. I have a producer friend who works with Abrams all the time. I should connect you. I'm like, okay. I have never seen this guy again, the guy from the dance class. And I never saw the producer who actually connected me. I never met him in person. He just sent an intro email helping out a fellow South American. And that's how I got my agents to start off. Like, how bizarre is that? You just never know. Go to take a dance class.
Wow, mine isn't as exciting. I paid $30. Well, yeah, CityVox. Before remember CityVox before it moved to the film set, before it was in the film center. It was on like 18th Street, and it was Full House Productions, and Voiceovers Unlimited, which is Carol and Dan Duckworth and their daughter Jen Duckworth. Every Tuesday, for like $35, you could get a 10-minute conversation with a casting director or an agent or an ad rep or something. And that's how I got Ingrid French. This was 2005. So she listened to my demo. I got in the booth, read some copy, and like, that's how, and then, fast forward to last summer, that's how I landed I was Inspector Gadget in Inspector Gadget Mad Time Party. So like,
so cool.
So it's all about, but you created that opportunity by putting yourself in an environment where you could meet people. And I had to pay money to do it, but I still made a choice to put myself in an environment where I would meet other people in the industry and see, and just do your
I
thing.
paid a lot of money for those too. I didn't get.
Oh, sure. The classes.
Yeah. I took classes. I took with agents, with casting directors. And, I don't know if anything came of them, but I do know I was taking it seriously enough that I was investing in myself. When you spend money, you're taking care of business. And I was practicing reading copy in front of these people every freaking week. I would take like 2 a week. When I had the extra funds, I would just do them, and whether something came of it or not, it's just me practicing to audition, me practicing to get nervous, me practicing my people skills. It's just like keeping the machine in motion.
Very cool. I have to ask you about Overwatch, because that's, I mean, you had some successes, and then Overwatch happened, and then holy cow. So how did that one come to you?
Dude, again, I went into the audition. This was through my agents at Abrams at the time, A3, that has now since closed, but they were auditioning for recording in LA, but they were reaching out for a Mexican sounding character, and so that's why I think they looked in New York. And I went into the booth at Abrams, and Keegan's like, all right, well, sounds like you just got to do your dry, the thing that you do really well, Carolina, those dry reads. And I'm like, Keegan, those dry reads have not gotten me any freaking commercials, so I don't even know if that's what we're doing here. And he's like, no, this character's like that. And sure enough, man, it was right in my pocket of like, she's got a little bit of attitude, and she's sarcastic. She's got a deep voice. I did the accent in English, and then in Spanish, I read in Mexican Spanish. But then I was like, sometimes these people don't know what they want. I'm going to throw in Puerto Rican Spanish too, because like, you never know how authentic they are. And then all of a sudden they cast, Michelle Rodriguez. And so, so I did the thing, and then I didn't hear anything for a while, and I forgot about it. And then I booked it, and we recorded, but I didn't know what the hell Overwatch was. I'd heard of World of Warcraft, but like, my agent said this might recur. We had no idea. And then I got invited to a rap party at Blizzard, and I wrote to the voice director, and I said, hey, this is in LA. I live in New York. Like, should I go? I was so lost to what this could be. And I also didn't have the money to fly out to LA, dude. I was paying bills month to month. And the casting director was like, it could be a great experience for you. And if you come out, we'll put you on the voice actor panel at BlizzCon. And I was like, oh, okay, sure. I don't know what this means, but let's do it. I didn't know what BlizzCon was, dude. Like, I didn't know anything. So I fly out. A friend's driving me to Anaheim because I didn't realize it would be like a $200 Uber. Like, dude, I was so green to this all. And then Overwatch just blew up, and the Sombra was launched at that BlizzCon, which was a super exciting thing. And the next day I got invited to another convention, and I was like, what? People get invited to conventions to sign autographs? I was like, what? So, and then that year, I went to like, I don't know, 10 conventions, because it was like, I need to pay bills, man. So I started just, and I called all the actors. I'm like, what, how do you do this? What do I negotiate? I didn't know anything, but it was, and that's I think why the Overwatch cast became such good friends, because we'd never done this. We didn't know what the hell was happening. We were living this new thing that nobody really knew.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was mad exciting and crazy.
That's amazing. And you're do a ton of cons every year now, right?
Every year varies. This year's has been slower, which I also welcome because I've been doing more VOs, so like sometimes you just want to be home and rest the voice. But last year I did 6, and the year before that probably 10. Like yes, one a month I feel like is really fun because it gets me out. I love talking to the gaming community. I love going all over the world, so I've got a travel bug in me. So yeah, it's a fun thing, and I've really enjoyed connecting with gamers. It's really sweet community.
What's the farthest you had to travel to go to for a con?
Australia, the Philippines, Kuwait, Bahrain, a lot of places in Europe, Chile,
Wow.
Costa Rica, Colombia, Argentina, like Canada 4 times. Yeah.
Oh my God. I thought
Dude,
Denver was far for me.
I mean, the first faraway one we got invited to was Australia, and I thought, oh my God. And then I got to go to Hawaii, and I'd never been to Hawaii. And then the Philippines, I was like, what the fuck is my life? Yeah, I could not complain. It was magical.
That's amazing. So you've done Overwatch and Overwatch 2, and then some Overwatch adjacent stuff. Like I think I saw on your IMDb the story of Sombra and a couple of like little extra things. So
yeah, they do short films based on the characters. So we get lucky if we have a short, because it's kind of like it feels like an animated Pixar sort of short, and I really think they're fun because they give you the backstory.
Right.
Of the characters.
And Overwatch 2. So it's one thing to get booked once and play a character, and then it blows up, but then it's another thing to be like, okay, you're going to be in the next Overwatch. So do you remember getting the news that there was going to be another one and Sombra was going to come back?
Well, so for first person shooters or live titles that we record minimum once a year because they do downloadable content that are updates. So I've been in the booth for the past 6 or 7 years that Overwatch has existed. We go in to record at least once a year, and maybe 2 or 3 times or more, depending on what they need. So it's just been this like thing. And then they're like, oh, we're working on Overwatch 2, and Overwatch 2 is going to involve the same characters. Well, at least we all crossed fingers for it. So we sort of assumed or hoped we would be in, but it wasn't like, oh my God, like we just kind of were waiting. Okay, how's it going to work? And then we recorded a bunch of lines for the second, and we just hope it keeps going, but we'll see,
Yeah. Yep. Fingers crossed. That's one thing that people who are outside of the voiceover industry don't realize, is that it's not like work doesn't always beget work. Sometimes it does, but a lot of the times this gig and 50 cents will get you a phone call, as they say. You know what I mean? And then because I audition every day. I audition 5, 10, 15 times a day.
Yep.
We all do that, so there's audition and pray as a part of a balanced breakfast of any working voice actor.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. It is the way it is, but it's okay. I kind of like it because I like, I like getting my reps in, and also keeps you up on industry trends and stuff like that, and knowing like what's your money voice, what do you have to stretch for, you know what I mean? So
totally,
it is a numbers game. Let's get another question in here. CG Film says, your Facebook intro says you love playing independently spirited alpha females with a cause. Were there any characters you saw growing up that inspired you in that way?
Oh, tough questions. I'm trying to think of what I got in Colombia. It's funny. Like now we live in a world where we can watch anything on, streaming. And back in the day, it was like we paid for a TV service. So we would watch Friends on every Thursday in high school. I remember that. But I remember we'd have to wait 6 months for like animated movies like Aladdin to come. And so then we'd watch them in the theaters. And I'm trying to think. I think when I was in high school, I still didn't. I liked cartoons. I wanted to play like the little sidekick of, the main character, because like
Hmm.
Timon is so much more fun to me than Nala, or
Sure.
the funny ones. So I always wanted that. But I think once I started when I was studying acting at Boston College, oh my God, I was watching like Kate Blanchett in every single movie she did,
Mm.
because I just
Hmm.
loved how she brought humanity to these characters, and whether she was being a reporter or she was being like, I always loved how uh intense is the wrong word, but she's one of the ones that I looked up to. So anything she did basically was amazing. Um, yeah.
That's cool. No, she is awesome. Um, I have to ask you about Hispanglosaxon,
Thank you.
because because I see these, because we've been friends on Facebook and everything for a while now, and like, and I'm like, and I see you posting this and posting that and Overwatch, and all of a sudden it's like, where did her when did she get gold teeth? like like what is happening here? And then I was
Who
realizing
is
that,
this person?
what is she? Is she schizophrenic? Because I keep seeing all these different pictures, and I'm like, is that Carolina's cousin,
It's
or
her
uncle? Like,
ugly.
what's happening here?
Yeah. Uh,
So tell him
that's
how
funny.
Hispanglo-Saxon started.
Dude, I was so scared to start sharing pictures and to start sharing the videos. Like it was one of those things where, I think I always wanted to do drama. So and there's something about, you want to look good on camera, and like a Law and Order episode, you want to be, maybe, I don't know, maybe vanity just gets in the way, and you're like, I'd like to look pretty.
Hmm.
And with Hispanglo-Saxon, it just kind of came out of necessity. I was really getting tired of being told I was too white to play Latina, but then I couldn't get seen for like other roles. So I was like, okay, so I cannot play the cleaning lady or the Puerto Rican prostitute. So then I can't play anything. Like there wasn't a balance of other roles I could go in for, or, you know. And so I decided to start shoot. A friend inspired me. He said, dude, put some stuff on YouTube. And I'm like, oh, what if it's bad? He's like, then you just close the channel and it doesn't matter. Shoot it by yourself with your iPhone. Like, you don't spend a ton of money on it, because friends were shooting short films, but they'd use $1,000 to do it, or $5,000, and I'm like, I don't have this money. So I literally just started, like, I would put my phone up, and then I would talk to this part of the camera, and then I'd flip it and then talk to this side. And I started understanding what the line was in the
Hmm.
filmmaking. And I didn't, the reason I play all the characters was because I didn't want to ask my friends to act for free. So I was like, well, I'll just act all the characters, and then I'll get to like invent some voices. And it kind of just, I hodgepodge together some stuff, and then it started turning into a web series. And I thought it was going to be dramatic, but when I started editing it, I realized, oh my God, this is funny, and my characters are ridiculous. So I started leaning into, and I reshot some stuff to have them like lean into their like ugly ass faces or whatever I was doing with them. They
Hmm.
all have weird twitches and stuff, and
Yeah.
so it became a really cool outlet for creativity. And uh, I did it all by myself. I didn't spend money doing it, and I just put it on YouTube. So it's
Mu-
just the real stories that happened to me in casting, and stuff that I dealt with while I lived in New York, trying to make it as an actress.
It must have been liberating, freeing to do that, right?
Yeah, man. One, liberating, because my character's part of saying the looking good and on camera. Like, my characters were weird and fugly, so I was leaning into like not worrying about how I looked. If the character was gonna look weird, that's the character. It's not Carolina. It doesn't matter.
Hmm.
It felt really good to. No one was telling me I couldn't do a Russian accent. Nobody was telling me I couldn't do a
Hmm.
Puerto Rican character. Like, I was doing it. No one, so I had that freedom, and then I edited it. So if I didn't like the length of this or that, I'm the one doing the thing. So it
Right.
taught me a lot about timing and lighting, and setting up a shot. It's not pretentious. Like, I wasn't putting something out there that was super fancy. I knew it was like, that's why I always put made with an iPhone, made with borrowed wigs, because it wasn't, high art, but it was about the characters, and I felt like that was the creative part.
Which was your favorite character?
Oh my God. Well, one that comes out a lot is the Puerto Rican. Like she New Weekend, so ella habla español and sometimes English, and like, but she likes to be related to JLo, but she's not quite sure if they really are related or not. And so that one I love. And then the dude with the gold teeth, man. I,
Yeah.
I have a soft spot for him. He's he's selling drugs on the street, but he's also like got such a big heart. So
Yeah. I think he was my favorite for no other reason is because you worked so hard to disappear
yeah,
into the character, and and
yeah.
I understand stigma, not because of my looks. I know an agent once told me John Malkovich can't sell toilet paper and neither can you. Yeah. Yeah. Because it's like, okay, am I as ugly as John Malkovich, or am I as good of an actor as John Malkovich? But I can't do the buy this toilet paper. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like they put all this stuff on you. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And it's when it's not about you. So that's what I loved about what you did with Hispanglosaxon is you're
Yeah.
like, you know what? Screw all these people. You're going to do whatever you want, however you want. You're going to explore and dive in. You're going to learn you learned a craft at the same time, filmmaking. And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
bet you that's a tool in your tool belt when you're on set, because it gives you a better understanding of what's going on around you, right?
Yeah, and I like this was so crazy. I would shoot what one character would say and what the other character would say, and then when I started editing, I realized I need reaction shots, dude. I need to have the character listening to the other one talking because sometimes
Mm-hmm.
I need to cut back to that. And so you realize the importance of like active listening and being engaged, and it's dumb, but it's so important.
It's totally important. Listening is the most important skill as
Yeah,
an actor on camera, on
yeah,
stage, or in voiceover. Even if you are the only person in the room and it's just you and the script, it's still all about listening and engaging, and understand what's
yeah.
going on. Absolutely. Let's take another question here. Jonathan Millett is back with another excellent question. What live action director would you love to work with, past or present? Ooh, good question.
I love Rodrigo Garcia.
Mm,
He's a Colombian Mexican filmmaker, and he's directed a bunch of TV, but all the films he does, he's written himself. And he wrote one that was called Mothers, and it's with he always works with Naomi Watts and Annette Bening and
mm,
Glenn Close, and I love all those actresses. And
mm.
I'd love to work with him. I got to shadow him one day on set, and that was super special because I got to watch him work. But I'd love to, be directed by him someday.
Oh, good answer. I'm going to say Guy Ritchie, but only because we just started watching The Gentleman on Netflix a couple days ago. I don't know if you
Oh,
watched the Netflix
cool.
show. It is so good, and it's
Yeah.
classic Guy Ritchie. Like if you loved Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, and if you loved Snatch, and even Sherlock Holmes, if you like that
Yeah.
stuff, this is
Yeah.
like, mwah, it's just glorious.
That's
Um,
awesome.
Let me take this question down here. Good question. Thank you, Jonathan. The other one I needed to ask you about is I'm a comic book fan. I've told you I have my own comic. I produce a comic book and I do the Artist Alley thing a couple times a year at Comic Cons
Oh,
and stuff.
cool.
And I'm a DC man. I love Marvel, but I love DC more. That's my
Yeah.
thing. Justice League, Martian Manhunter is my boy. But I watch all the MCU stuff, and I've got Disney Plus, and then I'm watching season 2 of What If, and I'm looking at the credits, and I'm like, oh
Holy
no.
shit.
You are part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So for those of you who did not watch What If season 2, there's this one episode and it's about a Native American girl who discovers she has superpowers and then she gets shipped to Spain and is brought before Queen Isabella. And that was you.
And that was me. Yeah.
It was so cool. That was so cool. Was that an audition? Was that an audition in Prey, or was that a referral recommendation, or was it a combination?
No, that was an audition and pray. I auditioned. This was during the pandemic, man. And I remember just checking in with my Spaniard friends that I was doing the accent right and everything because she speaks in Spanish. Because in English I can do an accent from Spain and it's going to be very different than actually getting the right Spanish accent in Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
And so and then yeah, I just prayed and then I got an email directly from the from the casting director, like, "Hey, so I'm putting you on hold for this," but it was a code name, and I was like, I checked in with my agents, like, "Yo, what's happening? I don't know what this is." And I think I had seen like Thor being mentioned at some point, but they're very, very secretive with the script. So I was like, so I thought my episode had to do with Thor, and it doesn't at all. And then I got to go in to record, and it was a little bit anticlimactic because it was so COVID-y that like we had a mask on, you didn't see anybody, you walk into this ginormous space, like the director was on Zoom, like it didn't feel like, oh my God, I'm here and I get to like grab coffee and feel special.
Right,
you know what I mean?
right.
Like I want.
Oh,
Yeah,
I do.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it was like it was a great experience. The director was amazing. Like it was very special.
That's wonderful. I try not to envy.
And one of the so I know this this guy, he runs a site and a podcast called Agents of Fandom, and he wrote to me, he's like, "Oh my God, I just saw your name on an episode of What If," and it hadn't come out yet, but they get like pre-screeners. And so he was really excited, and I was like, oh, I didn't realize that my name would be in the opening credits, like next to frickin' Benedict Cumberbatch. So
Right?
that blew my mind because I didn't even know he would be in the episode. Like I didn't know what the episode was about. So it was all crazy to me. I was just like, this is too much. Yeah. And also they said it was going to come out a year after we recorded, and it took like 3 or 4. Like,
yeah, because COVID kind of, and then it messed up everybody's schedules, production schedules.
Yeah. And then you go, oh my God, they might have cut me. They might have changed the episode. So like you can't get too excited because so much time has passed. You don't know what the hell they've done with it, you know?
Yeah.
I just crossed fingers.
Oh, that's so exciting. Congratulations on that. That's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hugh Klitschke, who is I don't know if you remember Hugh from New York City. He's a former casting director and now a coach. Hugh's got a question for us. Let's put this up here. Hugh says, can you talk for a minute about performing with more accent, less accent, or your natural accent?
Dude, that's a crazy thing. Thank you. I don't think I ever auditioned for you, Hugh, but nice to meet you. Sometimes some people tell me in English that I speak English really well and that I can pass as American, so great. And other times they're like, oh, the accent you're speaking with now is great. Keep that. And I'm like, okay. So I'm like, I don't know what it means to you, but I'll just do this thing. And I think sometimes it's been annoying for any BIPOC people to be told like sound a little more urban or, you know, sound a little more Mexican. And so sometimes it's like finding the balance that they're telling you in the moment. And then other times, like listening to radio commercials, it's like, what is being used, you know, and you say you want this, but you're really not casting that. And so I can put on heavier Spanish accents and differentiate them, Mexican versus Colombian, Venezuelan, Spanish. But like if I'm doing my Slavic and you ask me to do a little more, a little less, I'm like, I don't really know like how much less I make. Maybe I don't roll the R or something, but there's like certain things that I'm like, I don't know how. Or like my New Year weekend, like she's gonna come out and then all of a sudden, like I try to like, maybe it's just a normal English and or not the New York. And so you kind of give it the L because the L's can get heavy. So it's a hard question to answer. Like I've never like taken proper accent classes. I just have a really good ear and I speak a few languages. So I pay attention, but so I can't really like, I can't tell you like I toned it down 75%, you know?
Yeah. With dialects, there's like, you know, I took dialects classes in college. And so like there's your classic consonant and vowel substitutions, you know, that sort of thing. If it's a British accent, you take the R's away. So it's unless you're from York or it's a Cockney thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's interesting because, you know, how we got to know each other a little bit better was when we were working at CityVox together, doing all the ESL, which for everybody, that stands for English as a Second Language. It's now English Language Learners. That's the new acronym. Instead of ESL, it's now ELL. But when we would work in that studio, I would always be, you know, a male young adult. And I would do, because I can only do Midwest, you know, unless I'm doing like a sci-fi audiobook or something, and then I can go crazy. But then Carolina would be brought in to do authentic accents But that was different because that wasn't some kind of creative directors bringing their
Yeah.
preconceived notions of what this character should sound
Yeah.
like. That was more of an academic, like they want you to be this. So was there
Yeah.
any difference in your approach, or you're like, oh, good, I could just be me doing it that way?
Well, I always put on an accent. I never spoke like this because they didn't want that. They wanted this, like, because it's going to help people that speak with an accent to learn English, also listening to their people speak.
Right.
I felt confident in my Portuguese and my Spanish, so I could do that accent and feel good about it. One thing, Hugh, that I just thought about was sometimes they're like, oh, we want an accent, and then you show up with the accent, and Brazilian Portuguese accent in English is particularly strange, and most casting
Mm,
directors are like, the fuck is that? That's not, they assume it's going to be more like Hispanic, and it's not. So
right.
then in the end, you end up saying, you end up speaking normally, but then you'd say stuff like, I am from Brazil and I am from Rio de Janeiro. And so you just say certain words with the proper accent.
Yes.
Or I'll say,
Yes.
I'm Carolina from Cali, Colombia. And I'll keep speaking like this. And they're like, oh, that's perfect. Because all
Right.
you did was say your native country in Spanish or your name, or you'll say tortillas or quesadilla. And then they're
Right.
like, oh my God, that's great. And it's like, I didn't do an
Really?
accent. I spoke in Spanish in those words.
Right.
So I think everybody has a very funny ear about stuff.
Yeah. It's an indication. They just want an indication of an accent than an actual
Exactly.
consistent
Exactly.
thing, right? Based on
Yeah.
what the performance is calling for. Like I did an audiobook where I had to play Nikola Tesla, and they said you
Oh,
need to do
cool.
Serbian accent, and I can't do Serbian, so I just did a very, very light Russian accent, and nobody mind. They're like,
So
"Oh, that's great."
because in real life, man, there's some Brazilians that have such a slight accent that you could mistake them for Spanish speakers, or
Right. Right.
it was different. One funny thing is in one of my Hispanglosaxon episodes, because this happened to me in real life, I was auditioning for an agent and I was speaking my normal English and they thought I was American and they're like, well, so where did you learn Spanish? And I was like, because they thought I'd like traveled abroad. And I was like, oh no, I'm from Colombia. Oh, I just heard your accent right now. And I was like, well, I said Colombia Spanish. And so, but they're like, oh, now I hear, are you changing your accent right now as we speak? And I was like, no, I'm speaking the same way I've been speaking. I just said Colombia and you went there. So in my episode, I just start all of a sudden the accent gets very, very heavy. And then because the agent is hearing this, but I had to make fun of it because like we start getting like dissected in the interview and you're like, fuck, this is uncomfortable. You know,
Yeah, and it's kind of weird when they just put their stuff on you, and like you were talking about before about having to look a certain way. So you're like, you know what, I'm going to do Hispanglosaxon so I can look and sound any way I want,
exactly.
and
Exactly.
no judgment. It's just it's just you doing your thing. I'm going to put up Owen's question here. It was sort of addressed earlier, but are there any dream roles of yours that you haven't been able to explore yet? But I'm going to open that up and say, is there a character type or a character's
Yeah.
experience you haven't been able to explore yet?
Hi, Owen. How are you? I know Owen and I know Jonathan who asked earlier a question.
Oh, cool.
Um, yeah, I think I really want to play a little 6.5-year-old boy for a Disney animated show.
Like, I just want to play a little asshole who's always getting in trouble and is a little mischievous but has a good heart.
So I feel like that for me in animation is still like, or she could be a little girl, but usually because I go raspy and I don't do high pitched too much. I'd love to play a little kid though. That would just make me so freaking happy. That'd be a dream job that I have not been able. I've explored it in bits and pieces, and I've played little kids in animations, but just in like one episode. I'd love to have like a season where I get to like be this kid,
Oh, so CG Films was
Yeah.
just saying in the comments, so you like a Bart Simpson type role.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my God. If we could have a few seasons of, this kid in whatever show it is, like I would love that so much.
Oh, that does
Yeah.
sound like a dream job. Wow, I ran through all my IMDb questions.
Oh, cool. Yay, congratulations, Tom.
Thank you. Yes, I was able to nail all of them. Well, sometimes the questions are just like fast and furious, so I'm not able to get to any of the
Right.
I'm not able to get to any of the stuff. But can you tell us a couple of cons appearances you'll be making this year so people know where to find you?
Oh, I don't have solidified stuff yet. So like I might go to the Middle East again. I might go to Stockholm. I might go to the Bahamas. I'm just crossing
Whoa.
fingers for these to possibly happen. For now, all my trips are just visiting friends and family, and no cons yet. But I always announce them on my Insta. So as soon as I know, I announce as soon as we can. And Carolina's 25th birthday. You are so funny, Jonathan. I'm not turning 25, by the way. Thank you.
I just put it on there for the wish list question.
Right. Anything on my wish list? No, I do not want cake. And I don't want any gifts. I just want people to wish me well on the socials.
And we will do exactly that. Cool.
Yeah.
Carolina, this is so cool. Thank you so much. It was so great to talk to you. It's been forever since we've talked. So let me know next time you're in New York City, and I'll let you know next time in LA.
Yes.
We'll definitely get together. And for everybody else, thank you for hanging out and asking your wonderful questions. If you have any other questions, feel free to put them in the chat of wherever you're watching on YouTube or on LinkedIn, or feel free to go to vostrategist.com. Drop me a question there. These videos are parked on YouTube and LinkedIn, and you can also check out all of the other Ask Me Anything guests. Next month, our guest will be also another voice actor and coach, Anna Garduno, who's based here in New York City.
Oh, cool.
She is fabulous. So keep an eye out at vostrategist.com for all the upcoming Ask Me Anything appearances. And please subscribe, connect with me on LinkedIn, subscribe to my YouTube channel, connect with me on Instagram as well. If you're curious about the voiceover industry, you need help navigating it, book a free 15-minute consult at vostrategist.com. Carolina, thanks again.
Check him out. He's amazing. Anybody, because you're amazing. I get your newsletters every time, twice a month, once a month.
Yeah,
amazing.
I blog. I send them out like once a month. Oh, you read those? Oh my God, I'm so flattered.
Yeah. Thank you. It's great tips, and it's just you're so knowledgeable with like the mic stuff and how to set up your booth and everything. It's great. Yeah.
Well, I try to be the person that I wish I had 20 years ago, trying to help me figure out, you know what I mean? And now there's thousands and thousands and thousands of people trying to do voiceovers, and they don't know what they don't know. So as the VO strategist, I really try to kind of just like guide them, because not everybody's going to quote unquote make it, but like I want to do everything I can to set everyone up for success with like knowledge and empowerment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's what I go for. But thank you so much.
Thank you. Honored to be on your channel, and thank you for such a great interview.
I appreciate it so much. Okay, everybody, thanks so much for coming. Everybody have a great night. Stay cool, stay safe, and happy voicing. Good night, everybody.